So I learned the hard way that just because you buy an expensive monitor doesn't mean that it's going to be truly color accurate. Everything from panel variants to the way it's shipped can cause a massive shift. And that's exactly what happened to me when I bought my Small HD Indy 7 with the Teradek combo for $2,500. No way can this thing be wrong. I just spent $2,500 on it. It's got to be right. It's got to be smarter than Sony, and that white balance has got to be accurate. This is my friend Brandon, probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet if you get the chance to meet him, and he is an amazing colorist and super smart. And this dude takes his job very seriously. He even looked up the codes to find the exact middle gray paint, and then he painted his office middle gray and uses D65 lights when he's color grading. So I saw Brandon was hosting an event at Liminal where he was going to be talking about monitor calibration, so I decided to bring my Small HD Indy 7 and my OC Mega 15S to see if we could get to the bottom of this color accuracy issue. Also, this thing was not color accurate when I got it either. I'll pop up a picture here of my MacBook display versus what this thing was displaying, and this thing was like very, very blue and green. But it's got a neat little trick, which we'll talk about later. Before we walk through the monitor calibration process, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, which is Audiio. Audiio just released their app for your phone. Something I've been waiting for a while, and something that some of their competitors haven't done yet. It links with your Audiio account, so you have access to all your playlists and all your songs you've already favorited. And with the app comes Hans AI, where you can search by just describing a scene. I find that I actually find most of my music when I'm not looking for a very specific song for a project. Most of the songs I use I find randomly, and then I favorite them to use later. Then when I'm working on a new project, I already have a list of songs that I favorited and find one from there to use. So if you wanted to try out Audiio Pro and their new app, you can get 70% off your first year using my code LaRosa70, which brings the price down to about $60 a year. Thanks again, Audiio, for sponsoring this video. And now back to the monitor calibration. So for Small HD monitors, you need a probe, and that's what this is. And then you also need a software. So the two industry standards, according to what I've heard, is Calmon and Light Illusion. And Calmon is like, let's see here, it's about $1,200, and Light Illusion is around $800 depending on which version you get, which to me is an insane add-on when you're spending a couple $1,000s on a monitor. So without getting insanely technical, I'll just give a brief overview of how it works. You hook the probe up to your monitor, you run it through the software on your computer, and it goes through a calibration process where it shows a bunch of color swatches. I think it does like thousands of color swatches, and it takes about 20 minutes. And then at the end, you compare the colors that your monitor is displaying versus where they should be at in the color space that you're trying to achieve, like if it's Rec 709 or DCI P3. From there, with the software, you can create a custom LUT, and then you can actually load it into the back end of the monitor so that when you turn it on, you don't have to worry about applying a LUT or doing anything like that. It's just ready to go from there. I'm not going to get into all the technicals because it is an absolute rabbit hole going down this calibration thing, but essentially you're trying to get a delta E or DE of 2.3 or lower. So here's my Small HD being tested, and look at how high the blue values are. My monitor was cooked straight out of the box. Then we tested my OC Mega 15S, and this thing actually has calibration software built into it, and you can just plug the probe into the back of the monitor. So you plug the probe in, you hit calibrate, and it runs through a full cycle in about 2 minutes, which is crazy fast compared to a standard calibration, which takes about 20 minutes and goes through a couple thousand swatches. But how accurate was the OC compared to Brandon's really high-end software? So here we can see the white point reading is actually pretty spot on. And at the end of the calibration, we got an average value of around 3, which is pretty good. And Brandon honestly was really impressed by this. He then made a custom LUT, which got my monitor to a DE of 1.3, which means that this thing is now absolutely dialed into a T. I'm gonna make a separate video going over the Mega 15S, but an $800 monitor that can self-calibrate and get you accurate colors is pretty impressive. Okay, so I almost left this part out of the video, but I figured that you might find this valuable. So there's actually a free software to do this, and it's called DisplayCal, and it's completely free. They do accept donations, and if you donate, you get access to a couple extra features. But at the end of the day, this is still going to require a probe, which is about $250. So now with freedom comes some limitations. The biggest one being that, like the other two softwares, you still need to learn how to use them. And with just a basic use, you could probably learn how to do this in about 2 hours or so. And if you wanted to get advanced to be even more accurate, you could expect having to spend about 1 to 3 days learning all this. So if you're like me and your brain is already flooded with technical data about cameras and trying to learn cinematography, this is a huge undertaking, but I figured it is worth mentioning in case you wanted to learn how to do all of this on your own. Now, if you don't want to buy a $250 probe plus a $1,500 software getting you near like $2,000, Brandon actually came up with a genius solution. So for $200, he'll ship you this case with a computer and all the necessary equipment, including the probe.
So it's really just they call it Raspberry Pi. Actually, that version of that same Raspberry Pi is right there.
Oh, okay.
This is just an enclosure that will allow me to generate color patches outside of the OS. So instead of it going through color management on the PC or the Mac, it's coming straight from this center. So I know that they're 100% accurate.
And then he'll walk you through the calibration process to dial in your monitor to a T, and afterwards you just ship it back to him. Super easy, and in my opinion, worth it. Instead of trying to go through and figure out how to do all of this yourself, you can just do it through him, and he's a professional colorist. He's also offering to do this for free if you decide to bring him on as a colorist at the beginning of the project. So he'll calibrate your monitor, and then he can even work with you to create a custom show LUT to add onto your monitor if it can't display it in the back end like this one. So this one, you cannot add the LUT to the back end. You can only use it as a display LUT, so you can't stack both of them. But what you can do is create a custom show LUT with the monitor calibration LUT, and then what you're seeing on set is exactly what you'll see in post. This is something that not really a ton of people do, and you might not think it's necessary, but if you're working for a big brand and you are trying to get their logo the perfect color on set, and then you want it to look exactly how it looks in post, you're going to want to have your monitor truly accurate. So there is a huge value in that. And then there's also the confidence that you get when you're on set and what you see is what you get. So to me, I found this to be really valuable. And now I'm looking forward to using my Small HD and my 15S and never having to worry about what the image is going to look like when I bring it back into my computer. I know stuff like monitor calibration isn't super exciting. So if you made it this far, thank you. And if you want to see my 15S review, make sure you subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.